Okay, video number 2 on psychological survival. Today is the stress response. So I could make a video series of this on its own, but I'm going to summarize in a nutshell how your physical survival mechanisms can really impact your psychological survival mechanisms. So your stress response in its simplest format, so no neurobiologists come for me here, um, is made up of your amygdala and your hypothalamus, who communicate with your entire nervous system. So the way that messages from your brain are communicated to your body. Your amygdala is a tiny part of your brain that basically is like a fire alarm. So it will be triggered by something it perceives as life threatening. And when it does this, it communicates to the hypothalamus that there is danger. And the hypothalamus is like your command center, and it will then mobilize parts of your body that are needed in order to survive. Mainly, it does this by releasing hormones. Now, almost every single human being will have the same physical response to danger. You will get cortisol released, you will get endorphins released, you will get adrenaline released, because they all have very specific actions on the body. What they do is they prepare you for that fight, flight, and recently added freeze and fawn response. We mainly kind of know fight and flight, and the way that the body gets prepared for this is through energy, blood supply, oxygen supply. So your blood will need more oxygen, so your breathing becomes much shallower and much more rapid. Your muscles will need energy, so there is sugar released into your blood. Your muscles also need oxygen, so the blood will pump more around your body, which is why your heart races. You will basically stop anything that doesn't help you survive. So digestion, like sexual behaviors, the blood kind of is pulled away from any non-essential parts of your body to go to the muscles, because the idea is that you see a bear in the woods, you're either going to run, most likely, or you're going to fight. And to do that and have the best chance of physical survival, you need to be powerful, you need to have that energy, you need to be ready. So what is very normal or typical for humans is that physical response to fear. Your heart races, your breathing gets more shallower. Sometimes we have panic attacks. We get more edgy. There's more energy in our body that has to go somewhere. What is different for every human being is what triggers your amygdala, what sets off your fire alarm. So this can be instinctual, things like heights, wild animals, um, fire. Like, there are things that we should be afraid of because they are instinctually dangerous. But there are also things we learn are dangerous. So this can be more abstract, like other people's judgment, or maybe a feeling of upsetting someone. Um, and this is where our kind of psychological survival plays in, because what happens is, if we learn some things in our lives are dangerous or they make us feel terrible, we then learn that that's what sets off our amygdala. So walking into a social situation where you don't know anybody can be a way of triggering your amygdala and making you feel like you're literally getting ready to fight a lion or a bear. Now, what tends to happen, and I'm going to do another video on this as well, sometimes is that in order to protect ourselves, we begin to anticipate these dangers. So we begin to make ourselves afraid of things before they actually even happen. We may develop like an inner protective voice, or something like an inner critic that basically says, don't go to that party, you're going to make a fool of yourself. Don't say that, you're going to sound stupid. And that's where our psychological challenges come in. That is where we then begin to find it difficult to function and live our lives, because our actual survival mechanisms have been hijacked by some kind of psychological survival mechanisms. So when we experience these things, they are completely typical of our fear response. What is not always typical is what we learn is scary. The great news is that you can turn off this system, because this system, this stress response, can actually cause chronic illness, chronic stress. It's like putting the accelerator down on a car with the handbrake on. It wears out parts of your body by making them overwork. There is a solution. So I hate to say it because people often don't enjoy hearing it, but one of the things that's really key to turning off that panic response, that fight or flight, is breathing. Meditation can be great for this, but even if you just take in breaths down to your belly, you will be telling your system, I can breathe and therefore I'm okay. It will turn on what we call the rest and digest system, because if you feel like you're able to rest and digest, you know that you are safe. So breathing is really good, as is activities that involve breathing and movement and being in your body. Things like yoga or Tai Chi, things that involve presence in the body and in the space that you are in. Physical activity can be really helpful, as can social connection as a way of turning off your kind of, regulating with somebody else can turn off your panic response. So that is physical survival mechanism impacting your psychological survival mechanism in a nutshell. Hopefully, next week I can bring a little bit more light on the inner critic that seems to come out of our panic and fight and flight response.